So I'm a 24-year-old female, and my boyfriend is a 25-year-old male. He's currently in my home country on a working holiday visa that lasts a year, and he's been here since December. We met in February at work, and we started dating pretty soon after. Honestly, at first, I wasn't even sure if I was really attracted to him physically, but I fell for his personality. He's one of those people who's just super charismatic and social. Wherever we go, he seems to know everyone, and he's genuinely well-liked. I'm definitely more introverted and awkward by comparison, and while I try not to let it get to me, I've always felt like I'm not cool enough for him. For some background, we're not super compatible in a lot of ways. I'm really into fitness, hiking, and being outdoors, and I don't drink or do drugs much. He does like being outdoors, but he's big into drinking and drugs, and that's always been a bit of a sticking point for me. Still, we made it work because I genuinely enjoy being with him. When we started dating, we had a conversation about how things would eventually end since his visa expires in December, but I told him I was okay with that, and I just wanted to enjoy our time together. Everything was fine for a few months, but in July, things started to fall apart. He went out with his friends one night, and I left early because I had work the next morning. I didn't think anything of it at the time and trusted him completely. 2 days later, though, he confessed to me that he had cheated on me that night and slept with someone else. I was completely blindsided, but he was genuinely devastated, crying, apologizing, saying he'd do anything to make it right. He seemed so remorseful that I stupidly decided to forgive him and give the relationship another chance. Looking back, I was just too naive and in love to see what was really happening. Fast forward to mid-September, and out of nowhere, he sits me down and tells me he wants to break up. He said he needed to work on himself and that he came here to find himself, but being with me was too comfortable, and he wasn't pushing himself out of his comfort zone. He assured me it wasn't my fault and that I'd done nothing wrong, but that didn't stop me from feeling like I wasn't enough for him. I was completely heartbroken, couldn't even go to work, and cried for days. Then a week later, he asked if we could meet up for a drink. Foolishly, I agreed. During that meetup, he tells me he made a huge mistake and that he's been miserable all week without me. He asked if we could get back together, and again, like an idiot, I said yes, because I still loved him. For about a month, things seemed to be better, and I even supported him through some health scares. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that he might change his mind again. I brought it up once, and he reassured me that he loved spending time with me and wanted to keep being together, so I tried to relax a little. Then, a few days ago, something happened that completely shattered whatever trust I had left. I was in the kitchen making dinner, and I glanced over and saw him texting another girl. It immediately set off alarm bells, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I waited until the next morning to ask him about it. He dodged the question, but instead of giving me a real answer, he reassured me that I'm his priority and that he still wants to spend time with me. I tried again to let it go, but then, the next night, I couldn't sleep because he was snoring, so I grabbed his phone to look at a picture he'd taken of me earlier that day. That's when I saw an Instagram notification pop up from the same girl I saw him texting in the kitchen. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the messages. What I found completely broke me. It turns out this girl lives in the city he's planning to go to after he leaves here in December, and they've been flirting for at least the past couple of weeks. They've been texting constantly, flirting, sending X's, even making intimacy comments. It felt like a knife to the gut, especially since his texts with me feel like pulling teeth most of the time. I can't even get him to reply properly, but he's giving her all this attention. I know what I did. Snooping through his phone was wrong. He said before that it's one of the worst things someone can do in his eyes, and now I've gone and done it. But seeing those messages, it just hurts so much. I feel like he's already checked out of this relationship and is just counting down the days until he can move on to her. The problem is, I'm still in love with him, and I've become so dependent on him. I don't really have a big social circle of my own, and honestly, he and his friends have become my entire world. I know that if I bring up what I found, he's going to break up with me, accuse me of violating his trust, and leave. And with only a month or two left before his visa runs out, I'm scared to lose him completely. I don't know how to handle this. Do I confront him and risk ending everything? Or do I just keep quiet and let things play out until he leaves? I feel so stuck and heartbroken. I don't know what to do anymore. Any advice is appreciated. Thanks for reading. To summarize, my 25-year-old male boyfriend cheated on me in July. I forgave him, and then he broke up with me in September to work on himself. A week later, we got back together, and things seemed okay. But now I've caught him texting and flirting with another girl from his hometown, and I snooped through his phone, finding out that they've been talking for a couple of weeks. I feel like he's emotionally checked out, but I'm scared to confront him because it will probably lead to a breakup, and I'm dependent on him and his friend group. He only has a couple of months left on his visa before he leaves. I don't know what to do. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You know what you need to do. He's shown you his true colors. I promise you, he will repeat this behavior. He's cheated on you twice now within the span of less than a year. You deserve so much better, sending you strength to put yourself first. Comment 2. I feel like you should try expanding your social circle. Try finding new pastures, and maybe you will meet someone who likes you, not someone who takes advantage of your insecurities. Now for the update. A week after my last post, I finally decided to confront my boyfriend about the flirty messages with the other girl. I figured it had to happen, and I didn't want to wait any longer. I chose to do it at a dinner party hosted by my boyfriend's friend Max, where we usually hang out. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Max is a great cook, and I'm always down for free food, but now I realize it was probably not the best place for this convo. Anyway, during the dinner, I waited until everyone was seated to bring up the topic. I was trying to play it off like it was no big deal, so I casually mentioned I saw some messages and asked jokingly if he's been texting someone. He went pale right in front of me, like literally, his face lost all color. It was pretty freaky, but he quickly brushed it off, saying it was just a friend from back home. The other friends in the group looked uncomfortable, like they could sense the awkwardness in the air. We finished eating and then went to the living room to hang out, but I could tell something was off. After dinner, I pulled him aside to talk privately in the kitchen. I showed him the messages I found on his phone, pointing out how flirty they were. He got so defensive and claimed I was overreacting, insisting that he was just being friendly. We started to argue quietly, but the atmosphere was just so awkward in that small space. Max walked in, sensing something was off, and awkwardly asked if everything was okay. My boyfriend put on this fake smile and said we were just discussing plans for the weekend. You could tell Max didn't buy it, but he just nodded and changed the subject. Later that week, I overheard my boyfriend on a phone call discussing plans to meet the girl when he moves. I was crushed, but honestly, I wasn't surprised. The following weekend, my boyfriend invited me to a barbecue at his friend Jake's house. During the barbecue, he seemed distant and distracted, often checking his phone. I tried to engage with him, but he brushed me off, saying he was busy. At one point, I saw him laughing and chatting with the girl from the messages. They looked so comfortable with each other, and it made me feel sick. After the barbecue, I returned home and found an empty bottle of wine he left behind. I decided to text him about the wine, but the conversation quickly turned to the girl. He kept insisting that she's just a friend and that he wants to focus on our relationship. I didn't believe him, but I didn't push it further at that moment. The next day, I got a text from a mutual friend saying he's been seen out with the girl. That evening, I waited until he came over to discuss what I learned from the friend. When he arrived, I laid it all out, confronting him with the details about his outings. He got so angry and accused me of being insecure and invading his privacy. The argument escalated, and I finally decided to break up with him. He pleaded with me to stay, saying he'll cut ties with the girl Smaud, but I felt like it was too late for that. I moved out of our shared apartment, taking my stuff to my parents' house. My parents were supportive, but expressed concern about his behavior. A week later, I found out I had to return to the apartment to collect more things. When I arrived, I saw my ex with the girl, laughing and packing boxes. They both looked surprised to see me, and I just left without saying a word. I didn't want to say anything that I'd regret, and honestly, I was so hurt that I couldn't even look at them. A few days later, I met up with some of my boyfriend's friends, who still support me. They shared stories about their experiences with cheating and trust issues, and it felt good to know I wasn't alone in this. We talked a lot about what happened to me, and it was nice to feel like someone understood my pain. At the end of the month, I learned that my ex is officially moving in with the other girl. I can't even explain how that felt. I thought I was ready to move on, but hearing that news hit me in a way I didn't expect. I just felt so many things all at once, and it was hard to deal with. Edit. My ex and the other girl are still together. I've made new friends, and am focusing on myself. No contact with him. Am I the idiot for feeling neglected in my marriage after my wife spent more time with her girlfriend? I, a 35-year-old man, feel like I am falling out of love with my 34-year-old wife. I met my wife back in 2018 on Tinder. We hit it off and fell in love. I deployed with the military about 6 months into our relationship. My wife has always been bisexual, and we agreed to become polyamorous when I returned since we felt confident in our relationship. We got married shortly after in 2019. Polyamory worked for us for a while, as we had several partners, but in 2020, she met her soon-to-be girlfriend. She quickly fell in love with her and rode the new relationship energy hard. I felt her pulling away in little ways. Her social media changed, she stopped wearing her ring, and so on. I looked past it initially, but after enough signs, it caught up with me. I would ask her about it, and she just assured me we were good and continued on. I suppressed these insecurities and discomfort over 4 years, only passively bringing it up when it became too much that my wife also loved someone else. I had a few partners myself, but hadn't, until recently, had strong feelings for them. I suppressed my feelings for other partners and my insecurities concerning her relationship for the sake of my marriage, not wanting to rock the boat. When I returned from another deployment this year, I reconnected with an old girlfriend and felt the passion again for what it felt like to be truly desired for a few months. It didn't last long since she couldn't handle me being with my wife and was recently single herself, which I understood. It hurt splitting with her, but it made me reevaluate my marriage and gave me an epiphany. Cut to today. I expressed my concerns about the relationship my wife has with her girlfriend and that it has seriously affected me over the years. She stated she was no longer in love with her as of recently and that she had been contemplating ending it for a while and eventually broke up with her. I feel I should be happy, but I feel conflicted. For years, I feel I have been living this pseudo-single lifestyle, given how frequently she stayed at her girlfriend's home 2 to 3 times a week, and I have gotten used to being 1/3 of a partnership. I have also gotten used to being alone on multiple days now as well, and have invested heavily in hobbies, friends, and so on. I feel myself, for the first time ever, falling out of love with her, something I never felt until recently. It feels like the years of being one of 2 people she was in love with, and not the primary partner, has caused me to put up a wall and protect myself emotionally. I am not sure what to do. Part of me wants to escape, separate, and start over and be alone for a while, hopefully meeting someone down the line with whom I can manifest a committed relationship. The other half wants to work through the issues and take a chance with her again, focusing on us and all the years and experiences we have built together. But my feelings seem like they are preventing me from opening up again. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. OP, your perspectives are evolving. What you once deemed comfortable and tolerable now seems to feel limiting, harmful to your emotional and physical regarding neglect, well-being, and unsustainable when considering your own self-preservation and even happiness. Your post reflects stress, frustration, and even burnout. This is not healthy for you, nor is the unknown of what a future with her, given her seeking others, would mean for you. It made sense once, but not now. What I take away from your post is that you don't want to change her, but that you've changed yourself and shifted your opinions about what it means to be in a relationship like this. That's a good, healthy thing. You're recognizing new things about yourself that will guide you moving forward. Why would you want to change your emotions when every one of them is telling you to live authentically, that you're no longer happy and feeling unloved or valued in this relationship? This is a personal transformation that will help you move towards situations that better align with your own needs, goals, and even values. As we get older, that's a sign of wisdom. Please don't doubt this amazing gift of perspective. It will lead you in the right direction moving forward. I wish you the best of luck as you make the choices you need to and claim this new mindset. Comment 2. I think a poly-friendly counselor may help you sort through some of this. It sounds like each of you, at different times, got caught up in new relationship energy and lost the thread of your relationship. Deployment can also be incredibly alienating, even without the other elements. I would not make any fast moves, but rather take time to see what you may or may not want in life with the help of a counselor. I think some people can do poly well, but unfortunately, because there are so few dedicated poly people out there, poly people end up dating individuals who don't want to be poly and inevitably have those people break up with them or force them into monogamy. I'm one of the people who was poly but wanted a primary relationship and ended up monogamous because it became apparent my partner just wasn't suited to monogamy, so it was him or polyamory, and I chose him. We are still open to the occasional threesome, though. I think to make polyamory work well, you have to commit to poly as the relationship style you want, no matter who your partners are, and hold to that, even if or when people decide it isn't for them. If it's more about the person rather than the structure, monogamy might work better. Now for the update. It's been about 6 days since my wife broke up with her girlfriend. Things have been kinda all over the place since then. We had a conversation the night she told me, but honestly, it felt incomplete. Like there was so much more to discuss, but we just didn't. She was a bit of a mess and I didn't want to push, so I held back a lot of what I was feeling. She suggested we celebrate her newfound freedom with a dinner at home. I agreed, thinking it might lighten the mood. I mean, what's the harm in a little pasta and maybe some wine, right? I spent the day cooking her favorite meal, chicken Alfredo. It's like the one thing I can make that she doesn't try to change, you know? We sat down to eat in our cozy dining room, surrounded by dim lights. It looked like a scene from a rom-com, just without the happiness. As we ate, she brought up how she felt free from her relationship. I nodded, but my mind drifted to our own issues. I asked her if she thought we could work on our marriage since her girlfriend was out of the picture. I mean, if we're going to be stuck together, might as well try to make it work, right? She seemed surprised, mentioning how she thought I was distant. I clarified that I was just trying to process everything. I couldn't just keep pretending everything was okay. The conversation shifted to her girlfriend's family, and I felt a pang of jealousy. They were so close. I can't help but feel a little envious that someone else got her so much. Later that week, we went to my parents' house for Saturday dinner. My mom asked us how we were doing, and my wife said we were in a good place. I wanted to roll my eyes, but I held back. After dinner, my dad suggested we play a board game together. I noticed my wife laughing a bit too much at jokes aimed at her. It's like, chill out with the flirting, you know? My brother, who was also there, made a comment about everyone being single and ready to mingle. I could feel my mom's eyes on me. What was I supposed to say? I excused myself to the kitchen, needing a moment away from the game. My mom followed me, sensing something was off. I told her we were just trying to figure things out. The next day, I found a text on my wife's phone while she was in the shower. It was from her ex-girlfriend, asking about how she was doing. I felt an urge to confront her, but decided against it. I didn't want to be that guy, you know? Instead, I waited until we were on a walk in the evening. I casually asked about her ex, trying to keep it light. She mentioned they were just catching up, nothing serious. I asked if she had any lingering feelings, and she hesitated. That was a red flag for me. I pressed her a bit more, and she finally admitted it was complicated. I mean, of course it is. We had a heated discussion that ended with her saying she needed space to think. She left for a weekend trip with her friends, saying it would help clear her head. I decided to go out with some old buddies to distract myself. We ended up at a bar with live music, and I actually had a good time. It was nice to just be me for a little while. I returned home to find my wife had come back early. She was sitting on the couch, looking thoughtful. I sat down beside her, ready to talk, but she just smiled and said she missed me. I mean, how can you be mad at that? We talked for hours about everything, being honest for once. It felt good to be real. Eventually, we agreed to try to reconnect and see where it goes. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but I'm willing to find out. Edit. It's been about 2 weeks since my last update. We've been making an effort to reconnect, including date nights. The spark we used to have is slowly coming back. We haven't made any decisions about the future yet, but we agreed to take our time and see where things lead. Am I the idiot for taking my kids on a weekend getaway without telling my neglectful partner? I am a 35-year-old female and have been with my 33-year-old male partner for 5 years. We share a house together. I have 2 children. They are not his, but he has been a very close part of their lives since they were as young as 2. I have been unhappy for about 18 months now. We have always had a strained relationship when it comes to his family, mainly his brother, but ultimately I am just treated poorly in low-key ways. Most recently, I am very allergic to dogs, and it has gotten so bad that it causes asthma attacks. They always bring their dog everywhere. Every indoor family function they bring their dog. When I asked his mother if she could ask them not to, I was told to just try taking double allergy medication or something, and they proceeded to bring the dogs. He never defends me or even sees my side, so when we arrived at a family function, I rolled my eyes but said nothing. He made a comment to me about how he just wants to have a nice time, and I'm rolling my eyes the second we get there. He then publicly asks that the dog be locked in a room because of my allergies, which lasted 45 minutes and was brought up repeatedly how it was because of me. Last year, for my December birthday, he did nothing, not even dinner. It really hurt me a lot, and I ended up telling him that I thought by now he would propose, and he just said he's not ready. He refused to give a reason why beyond that I was his first serious relationship. I told him how much this hurt me and left it alone. I didn't know if I wanted to keep doing this. I said a lot of these things at a time when I was hurting, but it did seem to bother him. In early August, I told him that I don't know what we're doing. I feel like he doesn't love me, or even like me for that matter. We don't share money or make plans. I don't even know the passcode to his phone or any passwords, nothing private, and I'm not the type to snoop. It's just weird to me because he knows everything about me. This seemed to really bother him, but that lasted about 2 days. Lately, he has been pushing for intimacy, but it's always when I'm asleep or half asleep, when I just complained about not feeling well or something that seems like it wouldn't be a smart time to try. Even more recently, he keeps waking me up. I have to take medication to sleep. Last night, on a work night, he wakes me up to tell me he wants me because that's the only move he makes these days, is saying, "I want you," and maybe groping me. I saw red last night. I was so mad at him, I knew I was not going to fall asleep for hours, and I was ready to start saying things that I wouldn't be able to take back. So I moved to the couch, and then I cried repeatedly for hours. He couldn't be bothered to check on me or even apologize, so here are the things that I couldn't get out of my head. There is zero romance anymore, nothing. He doesn't do thoughtful things anymore. He never reaches for my hand anymore in the car or when we're out and about. There is never any intimacy. Instead, I am just a place for his release, or that's how I feel. He hardly talks to me. There are never flowers or date nights. There is hardly decent conversation. And honestly, whenever we are anywhere, he just seems like he's upset with me. I genuinely don't feel like he even likes me. I feel like his family hates me still. To add to the dog situation, his brother's wife simply doesn't like cheese, so they will make her an entire special meal. So they can be accommodating, just not towards me. And there are a million small things like this that happen. I don't have a lot of friends. We are both homebodies, and I don't have any family. So last night, as I'm crying, I'm feeling alone, and I am so hurt. I don't want to push for marriage because I'll feel like he felt pressured. But in the meantime, it hurts me tremendously. He claims that he loves me and that he wants that down the road, but I don't believe it, and I am just getting more and more unhappy. His birthday is tomorrow, so I don't want to say all this right now, but I don't even know what's left to say. I feel like I am wasting my life with someone who is comfortable, and it's really ending the life of me inside, deeply, all of it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm not trying to be mean, but he is showing you what he thinks about you. It sounds like he just wants someone there for when he does want intimacy, and that's about it. He lets his family disrespect you, and he disrespects you too. Really, I'm not sure why you're even staying in this relationship. Comment 2. Why would you even want this guy to propose? He treats you poorly. His family treats you poorly. You've been miserable for over a year, and you want to make a legally binding contract to be legally miserable forever? Girl, dump him. Now, for the update. It's been 3 weeks since I last posted. I honestly didn't know what to say, but things kept happening, and now I'm back with more tea. My partner's birthday came and went without much excitement. I mean, it was pretty much a non-event. The guy didn't even notice that I didn't get him anything. At that point, I wasn't sure if he would even care. I decided to take my kids to his family's house for a small celebration. This was not my first choice, but at least I thought the kids would have fun. His family has always been close, and I figured they'd enjoy the party. His mom was busy planning a huge feast, ignoring any input from me. Like seriously, I get it. You love to cook, but can I throw in some mashed potatoes or something? Nope, just take your kids and sit down. I volunteered to bring dessert, thinking it might lighten the mood. I thought maybe if I made a cake, we could all sit around and eat it together. I ended up baking his favorite cake, hoping it would show I cared. I mean, it's his favorite for a reason, right? You'd think that would be worth something. When we arrived, his mom immediately started critiquing my cake. This is my contribution to the party, and you're critiquing it right in front of me? She said it looked dry and that the kids wouldn't eat it. Okay, first of all, the kids eat this cake all the time, and second, how can you tell if it's dry? The party started, and I noticed my partner seemed distant. He spent most of the time chatting with his siblings. I tried to engage him, but he brushed me off. Like, excuse me, I just baked a cake to celebrate you, and you can't even give me 2 minutes of your time. After dinner, I overheard his sister talking about a trip they were planning. She mentioned it would be just family and didn't include us. Like, what the actual heck? Later, I asked my partner about the trip. He shrugged it off, saying they hadn't finalized anything. Yeah, right. I decided to text my sister about everything going on. She suggested I confront him more directly. I did just that the next day. He got defensive, saying I was being too sensitive. He said he'd talk to them, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. A week later, I found out through social media that they went on the trip. I saw pictures of his family having fun without us. I was so done at this point. I decided to take action instead of waiting around. I planned a surprise weekend getaway for me and my kids. I booked a cabin in the mountains, away from everything. I didn't tell my partner about it, just packed up and left. I posted pictures of our trip online, tagging him, just to make sure he saw us having fun without him. When I returned, he confronted me about leaving without telling him. He was all like, "What the heck? Why didn't I know you were leaving?" I told him he had chosen his family over us. He didn't have a response and just walked away. The kids and I had a blast, and I didn't look back. Edit. It's been 3 weeks since my last update. I didn't know what to say initially, but I wanted to share more details. My partner's birthday passed without me giving him a gift, which he didn't even notice. I took my kids to his family's house for a small celebration, but his mom dismissed my attempts to help with the party. I baked his favorite cake, but she criticized it. My partner was distant during the party, and I found out later that they had planned a family trip without us. I confronted him about it, but he was defensive. I then planned a weekend getaway for my kids and me, and we had a great time. When I returned, he confronted me about leaving without telling him. I told him he chose his family over us, and he had no response. If you liked this video, You'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.